carriers. Both will be in the eastern Mediterranean on the shores of Israel and Gaza. The first aircraft carrier deployed is the 1,106-foot USS Gerald Ford. That carrier arrived last week with its supporting ships. And on Saturday, the USS Dwight D. Eisenhower carrier was deployed to the eastern Mediterranean with its supporting ships. The Dwight Eisenhower carrier, also more than 1,000 feet, has more than 5,000 U.S. sailors aboard. It carries up to 9 squadrons of aircraft. The Eisenhower is expected to reach the eastern Mediterranean by next week at the latest. Host of the Greg Kelly Reports and retired Lieutenant Colonel for the United States Marine Corps, Greg Kelly joins me. And Greg, I wanted to speak to you because you are a Marine fighter pilot. You've completed a total of 150 aircraft carrier landings, and during during flight school, you've had touch and go as well as full stop landings on the Dwight D. Eisenhower carrier. So you're best to tell us about what we can expect. So tell me, what is the purpose of sending those two those two carriers there, and what will they be doing?
Well, to me, it's, as you mentioned, it's a show of support, a sign of support for Israel. It shows the media that, you know, we're serious and we're doing something. To me, however, it seems like a Cold War maneuver. It's something that's almost kind of old-fashioned to deploy an aircraft carrier. A couple of things. I don't think this makes much of an impression on the kind of enemy, the terrorists that Israel is engaged with right now. These are savages, quite frankly, in my opinion. The attack that they waged on those poor women, mostly at that concert, I don't think that this is the kind of show of force that they respond to. These are not professional military people. These are terrorists. Now, Iran, that's another story, but it's also kind of understood that force projection. I mean, we have aircraft in the U.S. arsenal that can actually take off from Missouri and fly all the way to the Middle East, all the way to, say, Afghanistan, drop a bomb, and return without landing. So it's kind of an old-fashioned show of support. It's awfully big. It's an awfully big target, and that concerns me somewhat. We usually have aircraft carrier in the region anyway. So in large part, this is symbolic. We can debate about the symbology and whether it's necessary. I think it's probably a good thing, but it doesn't mean, in the end, in my opinion, all that much.
All right, so will there be flights taking off and, you know, especially operations so that there'll be a more visible thing than just 2 aircraft carriers sitting there? Will there be flights landing and taking off?
Well, sure. Whenever an aircraft carrier is at sea, underway, for the most part, there are operations, training operations. I don't anticipate anything special with these aircraft regarding Israel. You know, setting up a no-fly zone or something of that nature. Number one, there are really no aircraft to patrol. Hamas, they had those lawnmowers that were flying around. There may be a joint exercise or two. Some of these have already been scheduled with the Israelis. You know, we work with them all the time. But I would imagine, and what people are telling me, that it would mostly be training missions. Again, the presence of the aircraft carrier, not anything it's necessarily doing, is the important part, just that it's there.
What's it like landing and taking off on these aircraft carriers? It doesn't look like a lot of room.
It's very small, and I'm glad you asked. I mean, whenever I hear the Eisenhower, it's one of the ships that I actually landed on. Here's footage of an F-18 landing, I believe, on the Eisenhower. And you may not be able to see the ship, but I can, and it's fast approaching. You're being guided by a light and a landing signal officer, and here he is, right over the deck. There's a hook at the end of the plane that catches a wire. It's an ingenious system that's been around for almost 100 years, actually. It's changed somewhat. It is a thrill. It is exciting. It is challenging, especially at night, especially at night. I was on the Eisenhower, but I will tell you, I landed, and then I taxied over to the catapult and took right off again. I don't have too much time on the Eisenhower or in the Eisenhower, but I do know how to land on it and take off from it.
Greg Kelly, thank you. And of course, viewers, you can watch Greg every night here on Newsmax, 9 p.m. Eastern. Thanks, Greg.
Thank you, Greta.
And brace yourself for this one. Last week, in a court filing, the chief